4 habits that destroy your value in a man's eyes. Steve Harvey's brutal truth. Have you ever opened up to someone and wished you hadn't? Maybe it felt right in the moment, honest, even healing. But later, their words came back sharper. Their eyes changed. Their silence stung. And you realize something heartbreaking. Not everyone deserves to know your story. After 50, you've likely lived through enough to know that trust isn't just about connection. It's about discernment. Who really sees you and who's just gathering information? In this video, we're going to walk through 5 things you should never share with anyone, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, because of your peace, your growth, and your future. They're too sacred to be handed to someone who hasn't earned them. Let's take a closer look one by one at the things you should protect. Sometimes silence isn't hiding, it's healing. By the time you've lived through 5 decades or more, you've gathered stories, some beautiful, some painful, all of them part of the person you've become. And while there's wisdom in reflection, there's also wisdom in restraint. It's tempting to share your past mistakes, to connect, to show vulnerability, or to simply let the weight off your chest. But the truth is, once you've handed those stories over, they're no longer just yours. They become part of how someone else sees you, and not everyone looks through a lens of compassion. Some will listen with empathy. Others will store every detail like a secret weapon, to be pulled out in moments of tension or judgment. And there's something deeply unsettling about realizing that your worst moments now live in someone else's memory, especially someone who hasn't earned the right to hold them. But here's what's powerful. You don't have to overshare to be real. You don't have to reopen healed wounds to be honest. You've already done the hard work of making peace with who you used to be. That alone is enough. Keeping parts of your past private isn't shameful. It's self-respect. It's the recognition that you've earned your healing, and no one else has the right to redefine you by the chapters you've already outgrown. So, before you hand your history to someone, ask yourself, do they have the heart to hold it gently? If the answer is no, let that story stay sacred, because not everything needs to be shared to be valuable. Some parts of you deserve to be yours, and yours alone. There's something deeply personal about your relationship with money. It holds the weight of your life decisions, moments of triumph, seasons of struggle, sacrifices no one else saw. That's why, after 50, your financial story should be treated with the same reverence as any sacred part of your life. Too often, sharing money details creates unexpected shifts in how people perceive you. Say too little, and they may think you're naive. Say too much, and suddenly you're either a lifeline or a target. One moment you're a friend, the next you're the rich one who should pick up the bill, or the irresponsible one whose past mistakes become fodder for judgment. But here's the truth. Your financial choices, past and present, don't define your worth. Whether you've rebuilt after bankruptcy or retired early with a solid plan, you've earned every cent, every lesson, every boundary, and you don't owe anyone access to that part of your life, not out of secrecy, but out of sovereignty. Sharing your finances can open doors to manipulation, comparison, or subtle guilt trips. You can afford it, they might say. Or worse, remember that time you messed it all up. And just like that, your dignity is tied to someone else's opinion. So, guard it, not because you're hiding something, but because your financial well-being is part of your peace. You are not a walking ATM, not a backup plan, not a cautionary tale. You are a person who has lived, learned, and earned the right to keep some things just for yourself. And your money, that's one of them. Love isn't perfect. No relationship, no matter how seasoned or secure, is free from disagreement, frustration, or even heartbreak. And sometimes, in the heat of those moments, it feels natural to reach out, to call a friend, vent over coffee, or let your frustrations tumble out just to feel heard. But here's the catch. You might forgive your partner. You might move forward. stronger than ever, but the people you vented to, they won't forget. They won't remember the quiet apology you received or the long healing conversations that followed. They won't see the small daily acts of love that rebuilt the trust. No, they'll remember the worst version of your relationship, and they'll carry that image every time they look at the person you chose to stay with. There's something sacred about privacy in love, not secrecy, privacy. A boundary that protects the tenderness between two people who are still figuring it out, still choosing each other every day. When you turn those moments into stories for others, you trade healing for judgment. You let outsiders shape a narrative that was never theirs to hold. It's not about being silent or bottling things up. It's about choosing carefully who deserves access to the intimate corners of your connection. Your relationship deserves the dignity of being worked on, not watched. So when the urge to share arises, ask yourself, do I need advice, or do I need space to feel and process? More often than not, the quiet space brings clarity and protects what truly matters, because the strongest love often grows in the places no one else sees. Pain is a private thing. It may have shaped you, softened you, made you stronger. But that doesn't mean it belongs to everyone you meet. Some of the deepest wounds you carry are the ones you've spent years trying to understand, let alone speak out loud. And once you do, there's no putting them back. Sometimes it feels like sharing your hardest truths will bring relief or connection, and sometimes it does. But more often, the cost is heavier than expected, because not everyone listens to understand. Some listen to define you, and once they've labeled you by your hurt, it's hard to unstick that label. You may notice it in their eyes, the pity, the hesitation, the distance. You're no longer just you. You've become a story of trauma in their mind, and whether they mean to or not, they begin to relate to you through that lens. It changes the balance of friendship. It changes the way you feel in the room. That's not healing. That's re-traumatizing. You don't owe anyone your broken moments to earn their trust. You don't need to offer your pain as a passport into intimacy. Your survival is not a performance. Your story is not a spectacle. Let your healing be private if that's what you need. Speak it only where it's met with quiet understanding, not nosy interest. You are not what happened to you. You are who you chose to become afterward. Let the past rest where it belongs, in peace and in your power. A dream is a delicate thing. It often begins as a whisper, soft, uncertain, yet deeply alive. Whether it's starting a new venture, writing that book, learning to dance again, or falling in love when the world says it's too late, that vision is yours. And it deserves protection, not permission. But here's what tends to happen. We share too soon. We let our spark out into a world that hasn't earned the right to hold it. And instead of encouragement, we're met with raised eyebrows and warnings dressed up as wisdom. You're too old for that. That sounds risky. Why would you even try at this stage? And just like that, doubt creeps in. Not because your dream isn't real, but because someone else couldn't see it for themselves. People don't always criticize out of malice. Sometimes your courage exposes their hesitation. Your desire for more reminds them of what they've settled for, and instead of facing that discomfort, they project it onto you. But your dream isn't their mirror. It's your map, and it deserves to unfold without being trampled by other people's fear. So nurture it in silence if you must. Work in the dark until the light is strong enough to shine on its own. Let your joy, your action, and your fulfillment speak louder than any early applause or unsolicited opinion. Because after all these years, if there's one thing you've earned, it's the right to pursue what sets your soul on fire. Without explanation, without apology. By the time we reach 50, we begin to understand what our younger selves often didn't. Not every story is meant to be shared. Not every person has earned the right to hold our truth. You don't owe anyone access to your past. Not your regrets, your healing, your hopes, or your dreams. Keeping those sacred isn't cold. It's wise, it's a sign of someone who knows that peace isn't something you protect after it's lost. It's something you guard while it's still yours. Because the more you choose silence where silence is safe, the more room you create. For clarity, for joy, and for love that doesn't require explanation. Have you ever shared too much and wished you hadn't? You're not alone. Drop a comment and let us know. What's one thing you've learned to keep just for yourself? And if you found comfort in this message, consider subscribing. Around here, we believe that life after 50 should feel lighter, not lonelier, freer, not filtered, and more yours than ever.